particles, and this is just a standard room. I'm going to make it a little bit darker so that we can see everything we're doing today. I'm going to add in some floor. I'm going to add in a spotlight so we can see them better. Add 0, 0. There we go. Brighter, brighter. There we go. Cool. And then we'll make it a little nighttime so we can see our stuff. And then, so it's pointing up, and I'm just going to refresh the sky, and there we go. So now we can see what we're doing. All right, we're going to start off, we're going to make a beautiful, gentle snow. Just because it made me very peaceful to do it today. I downloaded some Photoshop brushes. I thought it was an interesting way to start off. You can do this Illustrator as well. But you can actually install new brushes into your Photoshop. And I did snowflake brushes for Photoshop. And there are a bunch of them for free. You just download them and you import them. So you download them. Here are all these things are the brushes. If we go here to Photoshop, I'm going to make this very small. This is going to be each individual particle, so it doesn't have to be a large file. I'm going to make this like, I don't know, 48 by 48. Pixels. All right. So now we have our tiny little canvas. It's so small. We can make it a little bigger to see inside of it. All right. And if you go to Edit and Presets, you can do your Presets Manager. You can load in these snowflakes. You see I've already done right there. These are simple little snowflakes. And we're going to go to the Brush tool. We know we're 48 by 48, so I'm going to make these 40. I'm actually going to choose the snowflake first. I think that looks like a typical snowflake, but I grew up in Alabama, so I don't really know. And it's 48 by 48, so we're going to make it 46 by 46, so it fits within the bounds, and then there we are. So if I just click, I'm going to get rid of the background and add a transparent layer. Let's not do a black, let's do a white. That doesn't look as cool as I thought it was. I need to get a sharper edge. Or I'm going to do a higher resolution. How about that? Don't save. Let's do it 128 by 128. There we go. And we'll make this 126. Delete. All right, so now a little bit better resolution. It's good enough for me. And that's fine. And I'm just gonna save this as a little PNG. With that transparency. And this is called Snowflake. Like any great cooking show, I've already made it once, and I can show you the final project. All right. So let's import that texture, which is going to be in bodies of motion, and snowflake number 2. Didn't want to do it. Bodies of motion. All right. I'm going to save this thing as snow. I can't do that, so I'll do snow. And I'm going to right click on my particle texture. I'm going to make a material. Here we are. So to do particles, you have to actually use a special kind of UVs so it knows how to face the camera. Uh, Instead of doing just a standard UVs, I'm going to do what's just called particle color. It's a way to, that you can allows you to expose parameters later on, which I'll show you as well today. Just remember you start with the particle color, and then I'm just going to multiply both the color channel and the alpha channel to this material, which will be a translucent material. So I'm going to hold down M and click, have 2 multiplies, and color by color goes into, you can do emissive, and then alpha by alpha goes into the opacity. So we made a particle sprite. Wait for it to the shaders to update real quick. My poor laptop's going to hate this one today. There we go. So now we have snow. Particle color, yeah. Yeah? Okay. So leave that open. We might come back to it later if we're going to add in a scalar parameter. But we can go into, let's go ahead and right click. And right here it says particle system. We're going to make a particle system from scratch. That way we kind of own everything, and you're going to see how we just kind of go through and look at the things and fill out the different forms that need to be filled out to make a particle system. Particle systems, this would be called Snow 2. This interface is called Cascade. When you're looking with the skeletal meshes, it was known as Persona. That might help you do some searches so you can find some help files that will help you out better. Just know it's called Cascade. And we have a template particle system here. And you have a graph editor down here, details in the bottom left, a visualization of the particles, and then these are the different parameters. And I don't know if you guys have looked at particles, but you can stack a whole bunch of particles to make one system. We're just going to deal with very simple, just make something that just give you an idea of how it's all put together. So each different quadrant, as I select them, gives me new details. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and you can see I can add in every one of these things. I can add in so much. This is a very deep system. You can make it very, very complicated. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure I know which kind of particles I'm going to be making. And today I want to make a lot of snow, so I'm going to do GPU sprites. All right. So now it says it's GPU sprites, and then the first box is required. So I should probably put something there. It says it's required, and here's where I'm going to put my snowflake. I might be changing some stuff around later on, so I'm going to make an instance of it. Create a material instance by right-clicking, saving, and there we go. I have my snowflake instance. Snowflake instance. All right, let it update. Save. There we go. I mean, it's a pretty awesome snowstorm, but I don't know. There's a couple things wrong. What do you guys think? What should you change first? The direction. Okay, so I'm going to take a guess, and I'm going to say there's one box, and I'm sorry it's a little small, initial velocity. The initial velocity, I think, might be going up. And let's go down. It's also kind of doing a little bit of this. Maybe that's okay. So we're going to look at initial velocity, and it has a min and a max. Particles want to be very organic. They want to give you a range of things it does. So every particle has its, has more of a natural fall off. That's because we're doing a distribution vector, but we can also do a vector uniform. We can also do a constant where it's always the same one every single time. Let's keep it flowy because it's snow. And but we're just going to go the opposite direction. So my maximum is now going to be the lowest number, and I'll go -50, and let's say -20. It's going the right direction. What else is wrong with my snowstorm? It's always coming from the same point. Okay, so there's nothing here. There's lifetime. Let's just go lifetime since it's right there. It could be. It's only lasting for a second. Let's say this can last anywhere from 20 to 40 seconds. Okay, so 20 to 40 seconds. So now we have a chance to see where it needs to go. I'm going to right-click and I can see my spawn. Sorry, not spawn. Which one of it? You got to find them. Location. I need to make an initial location. It's coming from the same point. So if I select on the initial location, I see that it's all coming from 0, 0, 0 to start off with. Let's make it the max be 400, 400, and then negative 400, negative 400. Well, that was pretty gratifying already. All right. I think that actually I want to kind of take it for a spin for a second and just throw it in there because we got something already. All right. I personally think that they might be a little big. I don't know. I don't want to jump ahead here, but I think that my initial size is maybe a little big. I'm just going to say, instead of making it from, I can make them all the same size, make it a constant. Every snowflake is unique. Well, we can make 1 million different snowflakes in Photoshop and put them all together. That's like a thesis, I think, right? Okay, we'll do a range. We'll do a range. So 5, 5, 5, 1, 1, 1. I think centimeters, but it's also relative to how big my texture file might be as well. But centimeters is generally the units for Unreal. I mean, that looks pretty cool. All right, we already got some snow. I want more of them, so I'm gonna go to the spawn one, and instead of 20, I want 200. Let's come back to our world. I mean, this is already, it's looking like a snowstorm. I think that snow kind of, maybe starts faster and then slows down a little bit. I'm going to add another parameter underneath acceleration. There's one called drag. So I'm going to add just a little bit of drag. Drag is a factor of like 1 is like, it just stops it. I don't want to stop it, I just want to add a little bit. So 0.01. It's just going to slow it down when it gets closer to the floor. So I'm going to go through them all in order to make sure I got everything I want. Okay, we've got the material. We're doing 200 of them at a time. They're lasting for 20 to 40 seconds. The initial size was pretty small, but we can always change that. It's going down at a good speed. Maybe it needs a little, what do you think? That's the last thing I'm going to do. But that's a great idea. I'll write it down. I'll get to it. To rotate. Okay, so we go to a rotation and say, oh, there's an initial rotation. It's a number between, I think, 0 and 1. And let's go back to there. So it's between 0 and 1. Let's take a look at it a little closer. Are they rotating? No. So let's go to 1 to 2. I still don't think so. I wonder what the unit is here. Okay, maybe it's not initial rotation. Let's see what other rotations. A rate. Yeah, initial rotation rate. So get rotation there, rate there. Oh, look, it's doing it. So now they're like maybe a little bit quick. So anywhere from 0 to 0.1, and maybe 0.5. Great. So the initial rate, yeah, the spawn, that's how many. The initial velocity might be too much. These are looking pretty cool. I think it'd be a little faster maybe. But I know there's one thing I definitely want to have in is that I want to be able to make a snowman. And I can't make a snowman. Everyone may sing along if they want to. But I want it to hit the ground and start. Sorry, guys. All right, so pea snow. This is non-pea snow. If I come down here, I can add in collision. And I'm going to save. And let's just see. It's not going to pile up just yet. We have to change some settings. It's going to actually bounce.
Oh, that's fine.
All right. So maybe that's not what we want. That it's more like falling, like lightweight bugs that kind of crawl when they hit the ground. So let's go back at our settings. I'm not even hitting play, by the way. This is just rendering. So if I look at the collision settings, there is friction, which maybe put in place. But I think the response that it bounces is what I want to get rid of. You can say kill, which means it just disappears, but I'm going to say stop. All right. So we'll just wait for a little snow. Look, Ma, Pa, it's snowing. It's the first snow of the winter. It's like 65 degrees today. And then we put the lifetime up to a couple minutes, and we just let it pile up. Yeah. You mean that's a parameter that we can expose, and so you can make it over time. That the first one, because the ground is not cold enough. The first ones melt or whatever. So we now have accumulating snow. It's a pretty good day's work. All right. And we were talking about, can we have some wind? And there's stuff you can look at other things like there's gravity and there's attraction. We can put a tractor in there that's bringing them in. Yes.
So for stuff like wind, you have to do any particles or not on the outside?
There's two ways. You can do. Let's just talk about it right now since we're on the subject. If you had a bunch of different particle systems happening, we can right-click and it's called a local vector field. Each one has its own unique way of moving around, vector being different directions. We're going to do a global vector field. I'll show you that in a second. But what a vector field is if you are in use 3D Studio Max, any digital content creation tool, you can do a fluid simulation, and you can save one frame of that fluid simulation out, and that's a vector field. Okay, so let's just 3D Studio Max vector field. Here's a demo on how to do it in Unreal from the beginning to the end. That's the Unreal side. Let's go back and see if we can find the 3D Studio Max side. But essentially, you can do a fluid simulation, and then you can do little vortexes, and you can do other different things in the 3D content creation tool. You take one frame, and it makes this big chunk of all the different vectors of which, if they were bouncing up, if they were swirling in the center. And he's doing the simulation. And I'll import it myself. So here's our world. We want it to be accessible to. I'm going to look at the vector field inside of the actual level. So vector field, be affected by global vector fields. All right, and then yes, I want it to. I'm going to change it to 1, so it is being affected by vector fields. I happen to have a few that I've gotten from my underground resources, but I have such things as vortexes and colliders and bulges and whatever. We're gonna put in a vortex right here. We're gonna say the tightness is as how much it aligns. So you can just lightly influence, or you can say it has to align to each of these things. I also want to see it, so I'm gonna make it bigger. Let's make it bigger than that. So each of these little points is an arrow pointing a certain direction, saying where it will go when the particle hits it. So it's going in all these directions. It's making, you can find the patterns in these sometimes. I think this one makes them go all towards the center, like you're going through a black hole. But the particles aren't doing it just, let's select out of it. Are the particles doing it? Yeah, looks like the particles are doing it. So they're swirling back around on top, right? So now we've created some sort of wind here for our particles.
So if you do the vector field thing, just right click and there should be a vector field like thing. Just select. I didn't have to.
So I already imported vector fields.
Oh, okay, then.
So if you want to, like, the easiest one to grab is if I went to,
Is it like a plugin?
no, they're just they're files that you have. You can import them in. It's a certain kind of a file extension. When you import them in, it converts it to a U asset. But if we go to what's you go to the effects example and the content examples, there's a great one that's right there that you can just migrate into your project.
Yeah, I just meant like on the particle system.
Mhm.
Like when I right click, there should be like a vector field.
Yeah, when you on the particle systems, when you right click on the go away. Well, actually, I'll load the scene and then I'll come back.
So just making sure I'm not missing some like super critical component.
Well, that's also why I'm screen recording it too.
Okay.
Let's. So inside of snow, I right clicked and I said be affected by global vector fields down here at the bottom.
Yeah, so
Global.
I don't have that.
Oh,
So I guess if it installed vector field, it will show up, I guess.
this is part of the default engine. And then I could do local vector field and then just load in a field there and see it inside of my stuff. We might 413.
Yeah. I mean, no big deal. I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Missing out.
I'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. All right, so I'm going to move on from my snow. I really like the snow, though. It's a lot of fun. Blowing in there. Look at that. Just like this beautiful little scene. And all right, so let me see if I have any characters in here. Well, let's make a new material. We're going to do a ribbon texture. Contents. Do I have? I have a character. All right, I have a character and I have some dancing. Magical dancing snow world. And it's like 65 degrees out there. There we go. We have music. It's like a little music box. All right. First of all, let's make another particle system. This one's be called a ribbon particle system. I'm going to make material from scratch without a PNG material ribbons. And we're just going to do this kind of with math. Okay. It's going to be unlit, and I think everything else will be fine. So remember, if we start with particle color, and then I'm also going to start with UVs, and I'm going to kind of use the UVs by pressing U and clicking. So a UV is actually red gradient and a green gradient on top of each other. And I'm going to mask out the green side and just get a black and white gradient going down. So it's called component mask. I click on it, the details, I can mask out different values. If I get rid of green and I preview it right here, oh, I got the wrong one, I gotta get rid of the other one. It's just green. I now have a vertical gradient. So no PNG, this is super lightweight, just a little math. I'm going to multiply it by 0.5. 0.5. Makes it a little bit of a lighter gradient. And multiply that by a sine wave. So now it ramps up and it ramps back down. And then I'm going to use an exponential, a power of 4 to give it a nice big ramp in and out. There we go. We created a ribbon. Power is like exponential. Yeah, so the power of 4. Square, yeah. But this is a square because it's a 4. And so just like I did before, I'm going to add in my multiplies for my particle color. So typing M for the color, and for the alpha. Yay, yay, yay. So we're done with this, and this is just, let's look at it on a flat surface. There we go. Exactly what we want. We're making a new particle system from scratch. Right click, particle systems, and this one is ribbon. All right, save. So this time with the particle type, data type, we'll say it's ribbon data. All right, so it's already coming out different. Let's change that material, the required. I'm going to create an instance of it real quick. Where was it? Ribbons. Create an instance of it. So it's mribbons3 inst. mribbons3 inst. All right. Let's let it compile. And it's definitely something we could use. But, and the rate seems to be fine. Lifetime, well, I think it's the initial size is, no, initial velocity. Yeah, let's make it just go up. Up. There we go. We can even make it a constant. Just make it go. Was that 100? I lost it. Let's make it last longer. Let's find the guy. Size should be good. Initial velocity is good. There we go. It's over to the side. And velocity is a little much. We'll go 10 to 20. Oops, wrong one. That's crazy again. Anyway, so we're pretty much getting the idea. This is just going to be coming up and creating a ribbon that then the lifetime will determine how long that ribbon lasts. And then we want to make it a short ribbon or a long ribbon. That initial velocity doesn't have to have any velocity, and it can just stay where it was laid by the joint. So if I go back in here to our dancer, and we take ribbon 3, put it into the world. There it is doing the thing. This is just initial size stuff. We can make it much smaller. And I think that we should be able to parent it to the mesh right here. And then it gives me the option of where I want it to be from. These are all the different bones that are in that body. So it can do right hand seems to be pointing out, so let's do right hand. That was crazy. Right, obviously the scale I think would change a lot. And it seems to be using world position values. I think I want to do local values so it's not going, I want it to only go up. So if I go back to the initial velocity, is it the in world space? And let's go to initial size and make it much smaller, like 5. Cool. You liked it really? Well, you can go home and make your own. So you see the resolution of it. You see how it's coming out in chunks. That could be the rate. It needs to go faster, right? So we need to be responding more of these segments at a time. And you can parent as many as you want to. You can also get all the names of all the bones and put an array of them on all that. But it gets really, really nasty around the fingers because it's so many different particle systems here. So I highly recommend just finding some key ones like the hands, the feet, the knees, the head that you want to trace, and now you have popping and locking ribbon system going on. Yeah, I don't really want to take up too much more time on the particles. All these parameters, colors, all these things to be exposed to different live show control, so you can make it go fast, slow, change color, all those kind of things that I can sit with you guys one-on-one if you're interested in doing more of those, but because there's so much in the particles. But this gets you an idea of how to do 2 different particle systems. And the last thing I'm going to do is show you some post-processing effects. And, oh, it's right here. So we're going to add in a post-processing volume. And I'm going to make it unbound, which meaning that no matter where my camera is, I can be able to see it. If I go over to the settings, if you're doing a post-processing yourself, you come over here, it'll say settings, and it looks like there's nothing to do. Hold down Shift, and it'll untwirl down. It'll twirl down every single different option you have. Same thing with Cascade. There's a lot of these different triangles within triangles within triangles, and you can open up all of them by holding down Shift, settings, and we can see that we can do things like white balance and color grading and tint and all those kind of fun stuff. So for instance, if I click this, I've now exposed tint to being changed, and then I've changed my whole post-processing settings. So this would be a cool way of getting, like, you know, that matrix style or whatever you want to do for your world. Some of my favorite ones are, if I go down here to scene color, there is a thing called vignette and fringe intensity. My 2 favorites. We add in just a little bit of fringe intensity, part 1. Then we can add in some vignetting. So now the vignetting means it's darkened out the corners. And we have control over, you know, how much that does it. It's always nice. And then fringe intensity is an RGB shift, right? So we have built-in RGB shift that can be driven by, you know, audio levels or any of that kind of stuff. I drug it to the right, and it said 5, and it stopped. But I know personally that you can break this one, and we can go 20. We can go 100. This might be helpful for certain groups doing certain kind of effects. I don't know. But so you can let me show you how you get these values, and then I'm going to show you that you can actually line up multiple post processings next to each other, and then use the bounded version and actually move them around and change it, and they can actually crossfade between each other, and then we'll be done for the day. So first, I'm going to go to my level blueprint. I'm going to select my post processing volume, and I'm going to go to level blueprints, bring in a reference to it. And let's see, I think the word settings. I'm going to set settings. Is that it? They're there. But I think we have to break settings first, or make settings. Let's go to, let's drag off of settings. Make post-processing settings. Okay. So here's the one I'm going to change. I'm going to change the fringe intensity. That was underneath scene color. Expose fringe intensity. Great. And I'm just going to do a quick little timeline. This timeline is going to autoplay. It's going to loop. It's going to be a float track. It's going to be 2 seconds long. I said 2. I said 2. Great. And it's going to start at 0, 2, and then in the middle, it's going to go up to 20. I'm going to zoom it into there so I can see, yep, everything looks good. Fantastic. Back to the level blueprints. We're just going to put in that float value there, and then update as it goes along. Compile. Let's play it. There you go. So, simple proof of concept. This could be a slider knob. This could be audio. This could be whatever you want it to be. But now we're changing the post-processing settings as we're going along. And the last item would be that I'm going to take this post-processing setting and I'm going to bound it again. So now it's only when I go inside. right? Boom, inside, outside, all right? So I'm going to take another post-processing volume and put it directly next to it, and I'm going to go inside of it, and let's say, for instance, we want it to be depth of field. We'll say a Gaussian depth of field blur. So what I want to show you is that blur to fringe intensity, back to blur, and they transition, they crossfade. So where your camera is determines what post-processing setting you're doing. Of course, now I really can't see it, but there we go. There's some. There's another one. There we go into fringe intensity. Oh, it's because it's throbbing. Okay, this is making me sick. All right. So that's post-processing. There's a whole out there, obviously. Just experiment what you think it looks cool, and yeah, we'll break into groups and then we'll come around and see where you guys are at, or if you need any help with anything individually.